hello. That always cuts off a little bit more sharply than I'd really like it to. Good evening. This is Molten Modular, Molten Music Technology. I am Robin, and you are very, very warmly invited and embraced for our evening of talking about synthesizers, talking about modular, talking about music technology with the legendary Steve Davis this evening, who I'll introduce in a second. I just want to get myself settled. I hope you're all well out there. Let me see if I've got everything firing on all cylinders. I know that I'm not, but that's by the by. That's by the by. Let me just check. I've got the chat going on. People talking about things. Hello out there. Hello, is it all? That seems to be all working. That's good. So this evening, I'll be chatting with Steve in just a moment. We'll be talking about all sorts of things. We're just going to see how we go. You know, I've opened a beer now, so that's me for the evening. And hopefully we might get into talking about a bit of stuff over the year that was exciting or interesting to us. And we're just going to see how that goes. Hi, Synthetic. Hi, Jason. Good to see you. Ken, good to see you. I hope you got the beers rolling in. Robin, hi. Hi, Mark. Good to see you all. It's good to be here. Sorry I haven't done a Molten Monthly yet for December, but there's time. I mean, I might have some spare time Christmas Day in the afternoon maybe, just to put one together. We'll see. I'm not sure how important that is for everyone. But so this will be essentially our end of year live stream. I don't think there's any other room for another one that I can think of. So maybe we'll get together back in January and see what happens at that point. But anyway, enough of me going on. Let me press some buttons, pretend like I'm Sonic State and know what the heck I'm doing. That's the button I want. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Steve Davis. Hi, Steve. How you doing?
I was great until all of a sudden I realised that we couldn't work out how to use the camera on my laptop, so I've had to revert to another. So my background is, it's not and it's just a silly little camera in the computer, so it's not as sharp as your magnificent shirt. So two things spring to mind.
Yes.
Two things spring to mind. Firstly, listening to the intro music, obviously, hopefully that's going to be out on vinyl in 2023. That would be lovely. and also the fact that you've taken off the scarf, as we saw, means that maybe it's not as cold as it was a couple of days ago.
Yeah, it's not as cold. I am sat next to my heater, and I sort of turn it on and off as we go. So yeah, it has warmed a little bit, and I'm glad about that because I didn't like to be wrapped in a jumper. People then start feeling sorry for me, and that's no good. I mean, we know really. We know in the background, Steve, you've got a whole bunch of synths and modular and patch cables just out of shot, as we all have.
I've got a few my best ofs, but I thought I'd show the backs of them. You've got to work out. There's a best of. You've got to work out what it is. Yeah, that's. So I've got. So I thought along the long way. That I even though I'm not necessarily keeping up with absolutely everything that's during the year, I've got my own two best ofs as the program unfolds. That are things that have been important to me in 2022. So that's hopefully some fun of it. But I'm interested to listen to your best of 2022. Like, what's floated your boat?
Yeah, well, I mean, interestingly, I had this blinding idea about it, and which then turns into a bit of an epic because there's a lot of these sorts of shows around, people talking about their favourite things of the year, and I thought, no, because I do a monthly, right? I'm going to do my favourite thing of every month. But in order to introduce every favourite thing, I'll do it in like a top 5 from January. Then I'm thinking that's like 60 products. Do the whole year. Do we want to do that? I don't know. So we might skim through it a little bit. But rather than just go my best synth of the year, I'll pick things out over the years and we can go back and go, oh yeah, that was quite good back in February. We saw this thing. And
where did that end up? Yeah,
exactly. So that I thought that might be different, at least, if not vaguely interesting. But before we get down there, Steve, tell us, because we did this. I mean, you said it was a year ago. I think it might be 2 years ago. I think it might be 2
really?
2 years.
Well, I watched it again, sad that I am. Not that I haven't watched all of your videos, but I watched it again just more to make sure that I didn't repeat myself too much, because we covered a lot of ground. It was good
Yeah, we
fun
did.
doing it, and I think during the lockdown period of time, I think everybody was a little bit stir crazy. So I was watching it going, I looked like 5, 6 pints of beer there. I'm sure I hadn't done, but we had a good laugh, you know.
Yeah, we did.
But it's but things have changed, haven't they, since the last chat? And it's all, it's all back to normal, and there are events coming up left, right, and centre. Whether it's
Yeah.
completely back to, whether everything's back, totally, I don't know. But it seems like, obviously gigs are on all the time now, so that's good.
But you've been touring like crazy, haven't you? You've been out there all over the place. You had a new album out with the
Yeah,
Utopia Strong. Yeah.
yeah,
I
that was
think
yeah,
I might be able to do
yeah.
this. Look, hang on, wait. Urgh. Look at that. Oh, hang on. There we go. I killed your audio again. I must stop doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we it was frustrating. It was a frustrating length of time to wait because all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the vinyl pressing plants, as I'm sure anybody who's collecting vinyl knows, just went stupid, and the amount of time you have to wait from the moment of delivering the masters to, the copy to the pressing plant, it was getting up to sort of 8 months, 9 months, and it really was like you've got a record out that you really want to get out there, and you have to wait 9 months after. It's terrible. So we had the CDs well before the vinyl, but we were sort of chomping at the bit, and then we started doing some gigs again, and we missed out a few, but then we got the vinyl halfway through a tour and everything. And it's very exciting when something comes out, and I have to pinch myself that now I think we worked out the Utopia Strong's done over 50 gigs.
That's amazing.
And
I mean, for an old fella, if you don't mind me saying, because I know how hard it is to get up in the morning, let alone get yourself out in the middle of the night. But that's not bad, is it? And that's what, over a year?
Yeah, well, over since we started doing it in 2018, 19. But we've done quite a lot recently, and including an immense journey to the south of France to play a gig at the Convenenza Festival, which was Andrew Weatherall's brainchild, and we drove down there in a transit van. Down all the motorways.
See, that's classic. You are living the rock and roll life, man. That's what this is.
We were on stage. We were on stage playing in the evening, and there was no shelter. They hadn't really decided that it was going to rain. They decided they had sort of like portable gazebos should it rain, but it was inside the grounds of a castle. And all of a sudden, the heavens opened, and me and Mike York both had our modulars there, with rain coming on them. I had to sort of cover over like that. And then, eventually they brought the tarpaulins, but all the Carvises and Mike's pedals were all like just soaking wet. It's surprised we didn't blow ourselves up. But that was, part of the tour. It was like 10 hours from 10-hour journey and if you're interested, to get to the south of France on the motorways, cost 80 quid in tolls. There you go. 80 pounds worth of tolls there. 160 quid in tolls there and back.
Yeah. Well, that's why the roads are nice. You see, they pay
they are nice. Them. Yeah, not like the potholes on the M25.
Yeah, potholes are running over poor people glued to the surface. So you've been kind of all over the place with that. Has it been? I mean, how has it been touring? Is it the
great.
ideal you expect it to be, or is it tougher than that?
Every night's a different night, and they're just so exciting to do it. In a way, obviously we haven't, we're playing very small venues, and it's nice when people turn up, but it's just. You're bumping into people that are like-minded, they're music fans, they're into experimental music. And I think the nice thing is that if it wasn't for the fact that I've sort of gone down this road, I'd have been a punter turning up at places like this. And I found myself this year starting to want to go to more experimental nights, and perhaps getting more involved in them. So that's happened a bit. So there's two great venues in London that are always putting stuff on. Obviously, Cafe Otto has been for many years. Another venue in the south of London near Waterloo Station called Eclectic, and some really great. There's so many great artists that they put on between the two of them, and so I find myself gravitating towards those types of evenings rather than bigger gigs, big events. But playing them has been great fun, and being sort of knowing how a gig works, and what time you have to get there, set up, sound check, all these things are all brand new to me. But it's been a great learning curve.
Nice, yeah. I mean, for every night, are you mirroring the record, or is there a certain amount of improvisation, or do you just make it up as you go?
So yeah, we are not mirroring the record. So every night's a different night, and we're recording a lot of them, and that's how we ended up with so far 3 privately pressed albums that have been of gigs or of demo of rehearsals. So every night it usually runs along the line that the 3 of us. I'm sort of like effectively. I made the analogy that a football analogy, which is obviously topical. That I was like the back 4, or maybe a midfielder, but the back 4 doing the solid, the beats and also some rhythms and some melodies, the sequences, and then Carvus and Mike York would be the Ronaldo and the Lionel Messi that were able to fly around all over the place and respond to that. So there's a little bit that's sort of, it's like semi-improvised, I think it would be fair to say, but we can't really, and we don't want to really just recreate the tracks.
Yeah.
So we're going down an improvised road where every night is a different experience, which probably suits me more than having to remember and do the same thing like the rehearsed musicians would do if they were playing the same tracks every night. So maybe that's easier for me to do, but I've not had the experience of knowing what that feels like to, if you were singing the same, if say you were Neil Diamond and singing Sweet Caroline every night, I mean, like after a while, how many times at what nth degree has he got into that record? So, but I've never had that experience. So, but I'm quite pleased because I think improvising is much more fun.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it's interesting, the whole having to sing those same songs over and over again if you're touring something. So in some ways it's a double win, because you don't have to practice so much if you're improvising, and then you don't get bored of the stuff because you're playing different stuff all the time. So, it's the best. It's got to be the best approach.
The only problem I found, it's something that is sort of relatively new experience, is that depending upon the monitors and the sound on stage is nothing like the sound. This is something I wasn't even aware of. The first time the sound guy said to me, what do you want in your monitor? I went, the show. That'd be handy. I don't want just me. I didn't know. So, but every night you don't really know what's happening. It's an approximation on stage, and it's only when you listen to it back, if you've recorded it, that some of the intricacies and some of the beauty comes out that you weren't even aware of at the time, because you're listening to it for the first time as well. So you're very much thinking on your feet as to whether it's going right or not. And that's a fascinating, and the decisions you make, just when to turn the drums off, when to introduce a new sequence. And sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. And it's fascinating how one show has some spark and magic and the next show is okay, but it's really sort of going over the same ground somewhere. But it's been a journey.
Do you grimace at each other when something drops in the wrong place, or do you just ride it out like a bunch of old pros?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, you have to. I think if anybody's making mistakes, I'm sure it's me. I did once double up the drums. We were playing in Devon somewhere, and ended up I was basically, the kick drum was twice as fast as it should have been, and it turned into a gabba number, which wasn't really. But Carvus and Mike York, they went with the flow, and so we had a gabba night. Who would have thought? So, but with experience, I've learned how to sort of handle it a bit more. I think I'm a lot more experienced now, of playing improvised music than I ever was to start with. I'm not scared of it, and I've also come to appreciate which modules are my favourite modules, which is we'll talk about later. Modules that I think are really good for a performance. That are they're not new, but they get you out of trouble. They're really good workhorses. And they're not one-trick ponies, or if you decide they are going to be a one-trick pony, it's a good trick. and not much menu diving as well. So I've got them all here. I've got a selection of ones. I'm going to show them later for the fun of it. Show and tell.
Yeah. So is your case staying fairly static at the moment then? You're getting to know it?
Yeah, but although I'm just in the process of redoing it again. I went down to I got an IntelliGel 7U case and did a bit of and I just about had enough in under the hood, so to speak, to sort of go on the road with it. So it was all singing and dancing. But there's one reason why I've had to jack in the 7U case now and go back to my 12U, and that's your fault. But I'll tell you about that later.
Awesome.
As I was moaning about when we did the last show, I went off on a rant of moaning about the world for the fun of it, and one of the moans I seem to remember was that your good self and other influences have cost us so much.
Yeah.
But then and I'm not going to name drop that when you came around my house, when Molten Modular came around my house for a jam recently, impressed with a particular couple of modules that you had, and then obviously had to get them. So once again, you've cost me more money in the flesh as opposed to online as well. So but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Well, mine is constantly changing. I mean, it's all in bits because I did this jam with Lula York on Friday, and so I had to drag my my stuff because I wasn't going to bring her in because she came to my house, man. She came here, and I wasn't going to bring her into the shed in the freezing cold up the icy path. So we jammed in the kitchen, so I had to drag everything in there. So everything's all apart, and I spent a whole day putting the rack together, trying to make the right choices. Because it becomes part of the performance almost, is the building of the instrument beforehand, which is a peculiar thing.
I mean, I do one of the things that Alex Myla Melodies, Myla. I really took and realised the importance of it was that really you need to put everything together so that you learn it automatically, so you don't have to think as much. So that is something that I sort of I have done it, but I'm going to have to rejig it. But I think there's an importance to that. So maybe it's time. Maybe 2023 is going to be downsizing. I think getting rid of modules that which are great, but do you need them? Because I don't want a wall of modules. I don't necessarily think a wall of modules filling it up is of any benefit, unless you're Colin Benders,
Yeah, or Martin Ware or someone like that. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'd agree, I think. But it's always trying to tie yourself to, because it's like, I mean, I sometimes go back to my old videos and look at them, and there's some in the early days of when I was doing modular when I just had a Turing machine and an oscillator and a filter, really, and an LFO. I think it's sort of like my first row, and I was able to do stuff that I can't remember how to do now. Simple things where you're just wobbling the filter about the place and you're making those you see that cuts me in nicely with the Osrix. I went to this gig recently, as you know, Osrix and Gong. And one of the things that impressed me about Osrix was just that simplicity of pumping an LFO into the filter cutoff to do that type effect, which is brilliant. That's what you want. That's spacey. Suddenly you're off in space just with that. And I can do that with a single row and a couple of bits. In my larger rack, it's like I don't even know where to start. Where do I make that happen? Because that's already going into there, and that's doing that, and that's going up there. And it's like the simple things are sometimes exactly what you need.
Gigging sometimes, just even though I've sort of set it up myself, I still have to keep on tracing wires back to make sure I know the cables. And it's like I think you should know this. And okay, so here's a clue. Why don't you color code them all? Like I end up running out of keep the chain, keep the flow, make it color coded. But do I? No. Or
order modules, so you've got a complete voice, going left to right, so you know where every bit is, which is like, that's a good idea. But again, it all then falls apart for silly reasons like, oh, I've got 3 HP left and I can't fit anything in it, so I'm going to have to take that one out and swap that one, swap that out one, just because my my ADHD requires the thing to fit, and so that also has an impact on what you're using.
Yeah, well, on that track, I was looking at. Oh, there's my piece of paper. Oh yeah, I was looking back at the video we did earlier, realizing that but both, like, probably everybody's got like sequencer. Where are you at to with the sequencers? It was a thing we were talking about back then.
Are you still SQ1ing it?
Yeah, and I've got the Wavephonics sequencer, which is a nice simple sequence. I like the simplicity of that, and that's your problem. That's your fault.
That's my fault.
One of yours.
So I'm not being rude. I'm just required to log into something because my restream thing. I'm not seeing all of the chat, so I'm just trying to rectify that 1 second. But yeah, no, keep on talking.
Yeah, so the Korg SQ1s. I mean, one of the reasons why, even though it's sort of defeats you can then free up the space for other modules if you use SQ1s, and that's true. I think they still got a lot going for them. And there are obviously other modules, sequences available. There's so many but I still think, even though they're not sliders, and I particularly like sliders as I mentioned before, but I think the SQ1 takes a bit of beating. I've got these Gaz sorting me out with those. Look.
Oh, nice! Yeah. They glow in the dark as well, don't they?
Well, yeah. They sort of. But the thing about them, you sort of get some sense, a bit like sliders, more than just the black knobs of where you actually are in the sequence. So that's quite a nice. Yeah, that's how sad I am. I've got those.
Oh, that's working. Oh, well, look at that. I pulled it together at the last minute. Good. Okay. Oh, I've lost it again. No, there we go. Okay, good. Yes. So, I mean, so you're still using the SQ1s, you say? Because I can't decide. I keep going backwards and forwards. I'm really trying hard with the Busy Circuits ASQ1 at the moment, which it's slightly too big, but it forces you into melody, which that sounds like a weird thing to say sometimes, but you don't always want melody. Sometimes you just kind of want this vibe going on, and when you run something like the Wavephonics through a quantizer, you just put in a couple of notes and stick it through, and it creates this line, this bass line, or this vibe, or this something or other. Whereas with the ASQ1, I've got these buttons and I've got these keys in order to tap in a tune. I'm going, well, I don't really know what sort of tune I've got to put rests in. And it's great if you have an idea as to what you want to do, or you just want to put in an experimental something or other. Just come up with something. But it's almost too intentional. So you're left with having to think about it too much. And I kind of like the Turing machine, which I just route through a quantizer and it just picks out notes, and I just sort of riff off that, if you know what I mean. So I still don't know. I'm never satisfied. I mean, that's I
suppose it depends on whether you are the type of person that, if you're going to go down the road of recording stuff, that you want to plan to write it, or you just want to improvise and then go with the flow. And I think that's, if planning to write something and improvising it, then you can have that or the black sequencer from Erica Synths, or the Winterbloom Eloquencer, where you actually are really having to dial in the notes, but and plan it beforehand. So that I think is a difference. But I think the SQ1s and some of the slider style sequences are much more immediate.
Yeah, I mean, my Variegate 4 Plus is still in my rack, which is so it's this way up with sliders going horizontally, but you can very quickly just dial something in. You know, you just plug it in and it's lighting up, and you just move some sliders about and it does stuff. It also trips me up a lot, but for some reason it's been right from the start. It's one of the first little sequences I got, and it's always been in my rack because it ends up being able to do something useful, whether it's producing a bunch of notes or producing gates or probability gates, little things like that. And provided that I don't just stuff it up by pressing the wrong button in the first place and then just creating nonsense, it's worth it's earned its position, I think is the word.
Wait, I've got a Variegated 8 if you want it. If you want to upsize.
Ooh.
I'm not. Yeah. Well, swap you. I've got enough problems with the ones I got. So you.
Yeah. Oh well, having some kind of swap shop idea with modular, I think is a good one. I mean, actually, I have been down. I've been putting a lot of thought into trying to create some kind of synth library where people can just borrow stuff, because I have a lot of stuff that's not being used, and I very much like it to be used. And if I could get over the paperwork of that somehow, then it could be a great thing. I'd love people to make better use of things that I'm unable to use just because I don't have the bandwidth for it, And maybe that would then grow into this enormous global thing where everyone would just be sharing synths and manufacturers would never make any more money.
But what's going to happen then is you're going to be in a care home in a number of years' time.
No,
somebody's going to knock on the door and say, I've had this. I borrowed this from your library 30 years ago. I'm just going to bring it back. It's
not working. That would be more likely. It's not working. I tried to do a firmware update and I broke it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. The library thing. Good luck with that one. Like I
say, it's just paperwork is the difficulty, and then of course I just become a warehouse manager. That's all I do is book stuff in and out all the time, as opposed to doing anything else useful. But talking of
swap swapping them's good. You've got a box. I'm not too sure. It seems to me in the countryside more that people put carrots and potatoes outside their front door in boxes, or garlic to sell, or whatever it is, or up your way, it's samphire everywhere, isn't there? You can't move for samphire.
I suppose so. Yeah, at certain times of the year.
All over the place. Everybody's trying to sell the stuff. On every doorstep, there's boxes of samphire everywhere. So what your road's going to be is samphire, modules, samphire down the road, and people can put 50p in a box.
Yeah, we can have an honesty box outside with just a little lid on it. People lift it up, take a module, put a couple of quid as a tip. That'd work. That would work. No, I was just reminded about firmware. So I've got Lulu York coming out. So Lulu, if you've not aware of her, I did a video with her over the weekend. Go and check that out. She's fantastic. She's a Suffolk-based modular musician who does extraordinary stuff, and she's just got some new tunes out, and it was great to meet her and chat to her. She's also involved in our Synth East in March, which we will talk about in a little bit. And what was I doing? Oh yeah, we were going to have a jam. So I spent a lot of time putting my rack together, and then trying things out, practicing, trying this, a bit of that, a bit of the other, trying to get it all sorted. And I was playing with the new Modbap Trinity, which had turned up, and I've got to do a review of it, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to have a play around. And it's really nice. It's really interesting. There's a lot to it, potentially 3 channels of digital drums, I guess. It's a bit like a Bassimilus, but without all the aggro, is kind of how I found it. I'm less angry using the Trinity than I am using the Bassimilus. But I had this weird problem where it kept dropping out. So drums would go into it and then it would just stop triggering. And I couldn't work it out. And I thought, well, the funny thing about it was it didn't sound bad. So it would just be like bouncing along, bounce. Then it would just stop, like you would hit mute. And then it would come back in again. So it was like, it's a problem, but I think I could probably live with it. But I thought, oh, what the heck? I'll just check to see if there's a new firmware. And this is like 10 o'clock the night before I'm supposed to be jamming with somebody. And being an IT guy, it's the thing you just don't ever do. You don't update your computer as the last thing you do, or update a firmware. But I thought, oh no, I'll just check this out. So I go and download the firmware. And then I go through an hour of absolute hell of trying to update the Daisy, which is on the back of this module, through some web interface, which is all written for Mac. And I'm going, I'm on Windows. This is just not working. And at one point, I genuinely completely bricked the thing. I'd I'd uploaded a firmware to the wrong place, and you turned it on, and all it was giving you white lights on everything. Everything was just sitting there on, and I'm looking at this going, oh no, I've just completely broken this thing. I don't believe it. So I wrote poor old Corey at Modbap a long, dreary email saying, oh, I've broken it, and then magically fixed it. Just by bloody minded, bringing my old IT skills back in. I'm gonna work this out. I'm gonna firmware this thing, and I somehow restored it back to where it was. And it turned out it wasn't the Trinity's fault in the first place anyway. But that was a lovely time, and I got to bed at like midnight after getting this thing fixed, which is just
2022 is the first year that I think I've fried a module. That was my first. So that was, it doesn't work. I tried then upgrading the firmware, but of course it wasn't having anything because it doesn't work properly. So that was my first ever one. So it wasn't a module that I got on with that well. But after watching Gaz using it to good effect, it was a spherical wavetable navigator.
Oh right,
I decided to go in. Yeah, I decided to go in big, and I didn't fry anything small. I thought I'd fry a big one. Well, I may not. It may have just gone wrong. I don't know. So, but I'm currently trying. I've got to contact somebody about how to mend it or send it off somewhere. I don't even know where 4MS are. Where are they? America?
They are. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's got to go to America.
Yeah, and I think they're shutting down, Europe. Aren't they? Aren't they also shutting down?
Oh, great. Oh, really? Oh,
no, let me not speak out of turn. I get these all muddled up. Somebody will tell us in the chat, I'm sure. Yeah, as Ken says, never patch on a Friday night. Yeah, totally. And it was a Thursday.
It's easier sending to America than it is than to Europe now. There's so many things going missing in Europe or being refused. It's just ridiculous.
That's true. I sent something to Austria that just got returned, funny enough. Although I do have to send something to America, and I've got this huge, great wad of paperwork I've got to do, invoices. Just, I don't know why we bother. Let's just keep all our stuff, not send it anywhere. So talking of Gaz, then you've done a bit of jamming with Gaz this year too.
Yeah. Well, I think what's happened is what's polarized for me is how much fun you can have when you're jamming with somebody else. Yeah. I think there's just much more fun than just doing it on your own, and it's not just like twice as much fun. It can become. And what's happened is, so I've been fortunate enough to sort of jam with 5 people this year, and including your good self, and every one of them, and we recorded it as well, and every one of them has had magical moments that I still listen to, in preference to listening to albums sometimes. And it's just sort of like this thing about, what do you do with them on Bandcamp? Do you just sort of like, do you make a cassette up? Do you make an album? What do you do? If you think they're very good and you pick the best parts of jams, or does that add to the landfill of digital files that are out there on Bandcamp? And what do you do? Or do you just keep them for your own amusement?
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if you're recording stuff.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's an element that we shouldn't be recording. Maybe we should just let it go. But then that seems a shame because, as you say, there's those moments of brilliance. Yeah, it varies, I think. I mean, because I did this jam with Lula, and my instinct is we do it, video it, cut it together, and just stick it on YouTube, like, whatever. When actually she was thinking about it quite differently. And is a little bit more kind of, well, I don't know whether we, maybe that's not something that we want out there. Maybe that's not exactly how I want to represent myself. And it was really fun doing it, but it was kind of for us. And it's like, I hadn't thought about it like that before. And so it is, it's definitely interesting because it's not, I don't know, because what is it? Because you don't necessarily come together in the first moments of doing it, and this is what's going to be interesting about Synth East, in that we're kind of forcing that on ourselves, which I think is interesting, experimental.
Yes. So the idea of I sort of had this idea of the fact that if you do collaborate with somebody and you press record, that it takes like 10-15 minutes until something potentially really good comes out that sort of solidifies from it. So the thought about doing something along the lines that we hopefully can do at Synth East, which is to have some type of 6 artists, 8 artists, whatever, and then they're drawn out of a hat in 2, and they have to collaborate in the moment. But they can only have a certain amount of time. I mean, the danger is that it takes too long to get going.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that's the challenge, that you've decided you're able to do this in front of other people, and somebody else, and the two of you have got to try and work it out in a short space of time. You've got 20 minutes to perform, 15 minutes to perform. You've got to get something in a reasonable performance out of that. How do you go about it?
Yeah.
So that people will pair off into twos and start discussing what they're going to do, or others will go, "Oh, we'll just wing it." So I just think it's a great idea as a modular night to see what happens as a result. So
yeah,
it may be rubbish, but I think it also could be really brilliant. And there's various different artists you could get, different styles of artists, and you may do something where you can't really clock with the other guys.
Yeah.
You're a woman, you whatever it is. So you'd have to get over that fact as well. So it wouldn't just be a case of everything would be in sync.
Yeah.
Anyway, Gaz.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Getting back to Gaz.
Getting back to Gaz for a second.
This is really important. I think 2022 was the year of Gaz.
Yeah.
Coming of age as a modular performer and artist, and of course, if anybody's watched videos right from the early days of the lockdown through, when Gaz jumped in the deep end, very similar to your good self. It was a journey into the unknown, and you're not pretending to be, not knowing much about it. And I think, Gaz, as sort of, you see the journey of Gaz, and now he's bloody expert now. He really knows what he's doing. It's great to watch from the sort of the beginnings of just thinking, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. One video where there was loads of modules in the case, and 45 minutes later, all the modules had been taken out, and trying to work out what was wrong, and no sound had come out for 45 minutes. That was the early Gaz. Now Gaz is an expert. I bow to his knowledge. He really is clever at what he does.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. But he has that sort of brain somehow, and when he just completely absorbs technology and has this instinct in how sound works and how he puts those sorts of things together. I mean, his experience as a producer and sound engineer and musician, they all feed into these things in ways that perhaps we struggle to draw on that level of experience, perhaps, and that's why that's interesting to see.
One thing, he's got a great imagination, obviously, as a musician. But one thing I was envious of was that he had a sample player, and he sampled loads of Mellotron, and was then playing it, and then you could play the Mellotron via the sample player, and it just sounded great in one of the jams we did. And I was thinking, there's a module that isn't actually out there really, is a Mellotron module.
Oh.
There's a sort of an approximation, because I started looking into it. There's a Mellotron module. There's something about the Mellotron, especially if you're playing ambient stuff, it goes very well with it.
Now, as Ken will probably tell us in the chat, on the Disting, you can load up multi-sampled instruments. So you could potentially build a Mellotron that you could load into something like the Disting. But surely now you have that sample player that Gaz has now.
Of course I have.
Of course you do.
Of course I have. I've got that. It's still in a box. Yeah, of course I've got it. Yeah, and he promised me he'd send me the samples, but then you need the skill and you need to be of a certain intelligence to actually load these things in. Yeah, that's the next level. That's the problem. That's the problem of are you that way inclined? And I don't think I am, but I still love modular.
Yeah. I keep dropping back to analog, not because it's analog. I drop back to simple interfaces, regardless of whether it's digital or analog behind the scenes. But I'm always doing that.
Maybe I should have investigated more. And I don't know when you put this video out, but I think it probably was a lot further back than this year. That game where that problem-solving game you showed. Yes, and I was intending to get it, but now all of a sudden that lockdown's not on. It doesn't seem there's not so much time in the day.
Yeah.
But that seemed like, if you were ever going to sort of learn about control voltage and all of the logic and everything, that seemed incredible. So I don't know where it's up to. But that was amazing.
No, it definitely. I was just looking if I could grab my hand on. No, I can't. But because I rarely use logic. I know logic is a big thing in modular, but I can't find a use for it. I mean, I understand AND gates and NAND gates and OR gates and that kind of thing.
Of course.
I understand it from a metaphysical point of view or from a scientific point of view. But what difference or good it does me that I can't just switch myself with a switch, I can't quite fathom. But that game would teach you about logic.
Yes.
I mean, that's amazing, trying to work out how do you route these signals to these places. That was certainly a thing.
It's definitely it could be used for drums. It seems to be that's its use. I don't know. That shows you the level I'm at. If there's other uses are available, and I don't know what they are. But I've got without giving the game away, I was sort of like my drum thing. I don't need logic with my drums. I've got other things to do my drums. So whilst I'm sure it's very clever, and the people who really understand what they're doing don't need these sophisticated modules. They get away with utilities and things. That's the clever people. Unfortunately, I'm just one. Oh, that's a nice module because it does that. Another sledgehammer to crack all up.
Yeah, people who use an entire sort of collection of 4 modules to produce that kick drum. Because you've got to have the glide in there, you've got to have the pitch shift, you've got to have the oscillator, and then the noise, and then that transient, and all of that blended together to get that perfect boom. And that's good. I think people should do that if that's their thing.
Yeah, not for me.
Not for me.
Just because I don't understand it.
No, indeed. I mean, Gaz is coming to Synth 2. Let's talk a little bit about that while we scrapped on it. So
I'm really looking forward to it. So say, big hand for putting this on, Robbie. I think it's great. It's hopefully I've sort of in some way, shape or form trying to help, but obviously it's on your good self in that area too.
I mean, I think I might have said on the site, but it sort of started as an idea of, excuse me, of trying to play together. How can we perform together? How can we play together? And we thought, well, back of a pub at one of the electronic mic open mic nights or something like that, some kind of synth club meeting, maybe we could get together and do something. And then, I don't know, the idea came up of saying, well, I'm sure we could pull together a few people in Norwich or somewhere. And also I'd just seen you play at the Colchester Art Centre, and you were collaborating with this other guy, making some noises, and it was just it was brilliant. It was a lovely night. Sound quality was extraordinary, and we thought we could do something like that together. And then I thought, well, could we fill a venue like that? I don't know. So it knocked around a bit. And every time I spoke to you about it, you said, yeah, we should do it. And it's like, we should do it. We should definitely do it. So I sort of spent a bit of time looking at pubs and venues in Norwich, which are just really hard to navigate your way through how you get hold of these places. I mean, I'm from a church background where I've done lots and lots and lots of stuff in churches. And if you're in a church, normally speaking, you can just use it. So I'm very used to using large spaces for free, for nothing. But when it comes to needing to have a bar and a good sound system and not actually being part of a church in Norwich, it became a very different thing. But at one point, right, we were playing in the Shoe Factory, which is a place down by the Junkyard Market, in an old shoe factory, has no heating, and the rain gets in a bit, I think, but it's a great sort of community space, and that was a possibility for a little bit, but they didn't really have any space except for when it was really, really cold. So all about that. Then there's this gallery and called the Undercroft, I think, which is just at the top of the market, Norwich Market, which is this blank space under the War Memorial. and mostly homeless and drunk people hang outside it. So it has this kind of edgy vibe to it, which I worried about a little bit. But I just didn't think we could fit enough people in. Plus, there were no facilities of any kind, like no toilets, no nothing. You'd have to bring everything in. And as at that point, I was talking to Electronic Sound magazine, because they're in Norwich, and I've had a Push on here as an interviewee, and I've spoken to them a few times and been down their way, and they said, "Oh, that sounds great, let's do that." And then they said, "Oh, the Norwich Arts Centre is a great place to play, I'll give them a call." And so they did, and boom, suddenly we're in the Norwich Arts Centre. And I've got so I've got to come up with a thing. What should we do? Oh, I don't know, let's throw some synths in a room and we'll get some people in and we'll do some performances. So it all kind of ballooned very quickly from not sure what we were doing into, well, heck, let's see what we can put on. And that's where we are now.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. I mean, I some of the other synth meets around the country that I've not been able to make because they've clashed with other things. Yeah. The only one I have been to was the Bristronica one. And then sadly cut short. It hasn't been on since last year, I think, but they had a problem with a fire at the building. They were intending to put it on. So it happened last year or this year. Yeah. And so, but I enjoy the Bristronica one so much, the atmosphere. So I'm looking forward to this. It'll be great fun. So in the daytime, we're going to have a mess around and try and do some double ups and collaborations on the hoof. Yes. And in the evening, I believe in the evening are some proper performers coming along.
Yeah, indeed. So it's like just for people who don't know what we're talking about, let me just quickly fill in the details. So this is called Synth East. It's happening on March the 4th in Norwich, the heart of East Anglia, at the Norwich Arts Centre. It's a two-prong event during the day from about 11 till 5, say. We're not entirely sure, but we're going for about that. We're going to fill the hall with manufacturers, as many of those we can find, and enthusiasts who'll be bringing their synths and modular and stuff along so we can have a play and a poke. And during that time, we'll also have performances on the main stage. There'll be a couple of artists performing, I think. I'd say I'm making this up as we go, but the main thrust of it is this idea of Steve's, where we get a bunch of modular people together, we draw names out of the hat, and we just jam. Not entirely sure yet whether this is going to be like 15 minutes every hour or whether we pack it all into like 1 hour and a half at the end of the day. Not sure yet. We'll have to decide on that, I think. Not quite sure which is more appropriate. Still trying to work that out. But
on the hour every hour.
Yeah, I mean that might be good. So the people we have so far is myself and Steve. We've got Gaz coming over, which is awesome. Sam Battle, I think he's a hard man to pin down, and at one point he said yes, but I might have had his throat up against the wall at that point. I can't remember. But he said that he could well be, so I'll be pursuing him after Christmas, so that'll be fun. Lula York is coming along to do that. She'll be fantastic. Have I forgotten anybody?
That's 5.
That's 5. That's who we have confirmed at the moment. I've been talking to a few others, a few other people as well. I spot Jason in the chat. So I'm hoping to get.
You put one up for raffle. Put a raffle prize up.
Well, I've had plenty of offers, but obviously, I'm waiting for the good stuff.
Oh, I see.
That's not true. I've had some people have certainly offered their services, and I'm just trying to work out. I've got to wait for replies for other people and that kind of thing. It will be great whatever happens.
It's a pecking order, and so if you get a call the day before, you were well down the list.
You're well down the list.
You were the last choice. You're the last choice, but you're my only hope. I've tried everyone else.
But it's like, I mean, for instance, I've got Manu potentially coming from Bafako, which would be great, brilliant. But he's not in touch because it's a long way to come from Spain to Norwich, and the expense and everything else for a small show. It's a bit tricky, so he's still trying to weigh these things up. But he would be great. But like I say, he's a bit unconfirmed at the moment. We're just trying to get these things together. So, but that'll be.
I'd be. Yeah. Well, I'd be absolutely. You'd know full well that this day is going to go off well if all of a sudden I get the phone call, you're not required anymore. That would be then I know you've cracked it and you've got some big names out there. That'll be great. Yeah. Vision's coming down, Mila Melody's coming, Div Kid's coming. All of a sudden, me, Gaz, and you, we've been demoted into the toilets to do something.
Yeah, no, I have already made inquiries for the sort of the usual suspects, and some people are coming for the day, unable to perform, and some people can't have other things on. That's just how that pans out, unfortunately. But we should have a good bunch of us down there. We're probably going to need to do something crazy on the Friday night beforehand, aren't we? But not too crazy.
Yes,
so we've got an early setup in the morning. But we'll have to come up with something.
Well, maybe we have a software upgrade night.
Yes,
a load of beers. That'd be good. Yeah, just do some firmware. Do some firmware manoeuvring.
Just the last thing. Just before, just so I can blow up my power supply, something like that. But that'll be the next step. The next step is not only have you taken names out of the hat to see who's playing, you then take modules out of the lucky dip. That you then have to just take some out, build it, play it.
Well, then you have to. Well, I think you go one step further, and then you have to solder them as well. Day one is making your rig.
Yeah.
With an overseeing from Manu and yourself.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
So and would you like to?
Sorry, I better finish off the thing, and then in the evening we have a separate thing. It's the same. It's the same event, but because the hall will be full of instruments, we need to clear the hall out. So we need a couple of hours to clear the hall out, get all the manufacturers out of the way, do a sound check on the poor old performers. So then in the evening it's a different ticketed event where we're going to have Nick Colkvoid, who's going to play a blinding set, supported by Finley Shakespeare, who's just awesome. And then, just while people are coming in, me and Steve are going to make some quiet noises in the corner. Sort of like, don't mind us. We're just sort
nothing planned.
Nothing going on here. We're just playing a bit.
If it was anything like our jams, we've got some great stuff ready to be put out on vinyl. Mm. Yeah, I just like that's the B-side of your opening credits.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, I mean, we're going to have to, we might have to practice and stuff. We should probably get together before March.
Yeah, I suppose.
And give it another go. I think so. I think that might be good.
We can practice the night before practice.
Night before, yeah. The
three of us, you, Gaz, and myself, have a practice. And it'll be all right in the night.
So that's the plan. That is Synth. It should be a fun day. Norwich Arts Centre, 4th of March. Tickets are £6.50 if you want to go just for the day. The evening is £12. And then if you buy the two together, it's £15. Not too bad. I mean, the evening I think is going to be fantastic. I'm really excited to see that play, if nothing else. But during the day should be fun too, and it will be a milling around, kind of chatting to people, looking at stuff. That kind of thing, and it's in the heart of Norwich.
There's a sound system.
There's a sound system, yeah. There's plenty of food and stuff around the place. So in that gap in between, we could all pile out. Well, I mean, I imagine I'll be wiring things together, but other people can pile out and go to the various pubs and restaurants up. What road are we in? I can't even remember. Benedict Street. St Benedict Street. There you go. So it'll be a good day, without any doubt.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I've got before you go into the proper 2022 rundown.
Next? Yeah.
Well, I don't want to run the show. It's your show. But what have you got a list of plans?
I don't know.
I saw in the chat for the last one we did that somebody had said I started to interview you. I started to do the interviewing, but
yeah. Oh, that's all right.
Went into BBC mode.
Did you see the football, incidentally?
No, not really.
Oh.
I'm not massive football, but certainly, I watched the England loss and that. But I was doing something that night. But I switched it off at 2-0. And then found out the result later. I started listening to music. It's only a game. It's a game of falling over. They just fall over to get advantage. Good Lord, do they fall over? It's a game of falling over. And so I quite like the women's European Championship. Far less falling over.
Yeah,
people actually tried to stay on their feet a bit. That was quite nice.
Yeah. No, it's quite funny. Anyway, so we move on to the best of 2022. Shall we do that? I should have some music.
Good. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, all right.
I wonder whether to get my ones out of the way first because they're not of 2022. These are things
let's do
that.
Because I fear that it may run on really long if I'm not careful. So let's do the interesting stuff.
Okay.
Let's talk about what you've got.
It's been too long as it is. So here's the modules. They're not new modules, but these are the modules I've appreciated this year for a variety of reasons, and they're the ones that a lot of them I've played live with, and I trust them, so to speak. So
excellent.
In no particular order. And I must admit I haven't as yet played with this live because it's a really new module. So, but I love it already.
Oh, look at that.
I love it. I love it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Oh, it does what it says on the tin beautifully. And the lights are spectacular.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. That's just brilliant. Yes. Thanks for that, mate. That's really appreciated.
No,
apparently we have sold out. We've sold out.
Wow.
Quite quickly, which is nice. Both kits and ready-made, so they are getting more made, I believe. And there should be so. Yeah, there should be a whole load going out to America in the new year to Perfect Circuit, places like that, and they'll become available again, which is super. So it's very exciting. And here's a little thing that nobody else knows about. There may be. Ooh. Am I allowed to say
firmware upgrade?
No, that may become available in a certain software product as requested.
Oh, really?
Me and Manu,
that's good.
Somebody in the chat asked whether it would be on VCV Rack when me and Manu first launched it, and it might well be. And I'm probably not allowed to say, but heck, it's the end of the year and it's exciting, so that'll be a place where people can play with it. It has no purpose, because it's monitoring and showing things that you can see anyway in VCV Rack because it's software. But it's just exciting that it's there.
I enjoyed Red Means recordings for videos on VCV Rack, which I think were very educational.
Yeah,
brilliant. I like really into it, what VCV Rack is, but then really does do a good job of walking you by the hand through control voltage. Really clever. Second module.
Yeah.
As 10 of them, essential in a live performance. I know there are others available, but
is that a mute?
It's mute.
My screen's too small. Hang on, because I'm trying to look at something. Let me bring that up a bit.
Yeah, mute.
Oh yeah. No, I agree totally. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Just like whenever you need the drums turning off.
Yes.
So that was. So here's
absolutely perfect.
This is version 1, but.
Oh really? The blob,
I love it.
Yeah,
yeah,
great.
There's you can like halve it, third it, quarter the. It really is like a friend, and it's playable. All these things are quite playable. So I know there are probably other delays that perhaps are more sophisticated, but this one in a live performance is really worth investigating. Really is good fun.
I keep looking at that. I've looked at it many times. Gone.
But I'd recommend, although I'm not too sure how much my recommendations really matter.
You're a man out there doing it. You're there on the road in the back of the van, patching, improvising.
Right,
So
we've done it loads of diesel going around the country.
You're the man to listen to.
The last time round we were sort of saying we had a question what were favourite modules, and I said the Tone Star because it's all in one voice.
Oh yeah.
And whilst this is so, but here's a maybe not to say completely, but the Dope a complete voice.
Yeah.
In a really small, and it makes great bass sounds. I'm sure other things can be available. It really does its job. In that environment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're not having to do really intricate changes on it, then it's perfect. It sits and does its job.
Yeah. This has been great fun. It's not exactly radio a new music? Module, is it? Yeah, radio. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I should put it closer. The radio. Yeah, that great fun. Great fun. And if you whack things into the start point and the reset, you can get some really cool things happening. With, maybe that with logic modules would be quite an interesting thing.
Oh, well, yeah,
That's
yeah,
1, 2,
there
3,
you
4,
go.
5, 6. Yeah, maybe so.
Building together
6.
percussion systems.
So instead of logic modules, and Gaz really showed me how this can be. It's not like not. There's no revelation, but grids.
Oh, yeah.
So good. You sound like you nearly sound like you're a drummer.
You
just
do.
by twiddling those. Yeah, they're clever things.
Yeah.
So I usually have a kick, just a kick going on if it's for just regular, and then 3 other channels of drum material that are going all over the place, and then with the accents as well, it's great.
Yeah.
And
well, I'll tell you my little grid story then, quick, just to throw myself in there. Is I mean, I watched Milo Melody's video on grids. I've watched it quite a few times, going, "This is amazing." This is because I'm trying to work out how to do drums, and I've used lots of different things, lots of different programming things, and you just end up with it sounding the same over round and round and round again. And seeing him use that and hearing him live, funnily enough, at your place that time, it's a different thing. There's stuff going on. It's changing. It's moving, and I found that fascinating. And I had my first go with that when this geezer sent me his EuroPi consequencer. So EuroPi is this kind of blank Raspberry Pi driven module onto which he'd put this firmware, which was essentially a version of grids. And I got to play with it, and I suddenly understood what it was about. That you kind of dial in a bit of a rhythm, and then you just sort of dial in some chaos, and it changes. It's like it does a fill. And it's like, well, that's what I've been wanting all this time. That's what I want. So I thought, right, must get a grids. Oh, and then, of course, there aren't any grids to buy anymore. So I then had a look into the clones and found an interesting microgrids, which I got off Pusherman Productions. And I built it. Did I put that up? I think I did. Yes, I did. I built it the other week. Built it last week, and I put a video up of that. And it's brilliant. It's totally brilliant. It's absolutely everything I hoped it would be, other than the fact the knobs are too stiff to turn. They're small knobs, and you can't turn them. And it's like, well, this is ruining everything. Until I then plugged in a Molten motion meter and use that as the control voltage over it, and suddenly it's brilliant. Wow. Not only am I can see on the lights on how much I've dialed in and where I've gone. I've sort of piped that in, which is just brilliant. Except that I had one final snag, which is the problem I had with the Trinity, with it dropping out. It's not the Trinity, it's the microgrids. There's something going on in the microgrids, which is just, it appears to be firing. The lights are firing. The lights are lighting. It's just not outputting enough, I think, because I was testing it with one of those Halo cables. My Volts, God bless them, sent me some Halo cables, light up cables. And when you put it into the microgrids, they just about see a little light come on. I thought, all right, okay. So I was just using that to test. And then I plugged it into the drum output on the ASQ1, and suddenly they're bright lights like anything. And there was no problem with the Trinity, which is why I worked out the Trinity wasn't at fault. So it must be that the microgrids is only like sending out 3 volts or something. It's just not triggering enough. So every now and again, it just dips enough for the Trinity goes, oh, I don't know what's going on. And so stops. So it's like, this is the answer to everything I wanted to do in drums, but it's just not quite working. It's like terribly frustrating. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to work it out. I'll work it out in the new year.
I got a U grid so that I could use less space for a rack for a gig, and as you say, the small knobs are really quite stiff.
Yeah.
But I could turn them, but it was quite tough. Not like the big the proper grids.
Yeah.
But what happened was when I got on stage, because I was a bit nervous and my palms were sweaty, I then couldn't turn them at all.
Yes.
I then felt as if I needed a bit of rubber around them to get some traction. But I think you need the proper grids, even though it takes up more space. Right, moving on now.
Moving on. Sorry. Yeah.
Moving on to 7 and 8 of the top 10. Now these are your fault.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
they're your fault.
Yeah,
This I reckon this is the best drum mixture
yeah.
between these two modules. You can make drum sounds that don't sound like drums. Yeah, and what are you trying to do if you're playing electronic music? Are you trying to recreate the sounds of other instruments, or do you want to make your own sounds? And these two, and when you came round and played, you did some great drums with these two things. I thought, yes, I'm having those.
Yeah.
So they're my go-to now.
Great. They're very playable as well. You can get on that. Get on. What am I doing? Get on that faders. Get on those little sliders to try to put in those decay on the drum sounds. It's really nice. That looks.
I've embraced this. I've embraced Morphogene.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I tell you what, it's great for It's great for techno, with voices and just snippets of voice. It's brilliant, honestly. Once you get used to it, and you don't have to do too much. You don't need reels and reels of the stuff. Record a little bit of voice into it, and then cut it up. Fantastic, and just repeat it forever. And lastly, still at number one, is the drone machine that is the panharmonium.
Flipping heck!
That is instant drone. Drone. I don't know what else it does, but
it's too complicated for me.
It's just brilliant.
It's scares the life out of me.
That's my top 10. That's my top 10 appreciation of 2022. None of them, awesome. I think, apart from your one. I think there's only one of those is this year's. Yeah. But anyway, that's me done. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! That's a great selection of stuff, and really good reasons too. I mean, the fact that they're, this is gig proven type stuff, which is road ready. What's the word I'm after? There's a cool word in there that I'm escaping.
Running. No, not running.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. But they work in an environment where you need something to do a job and do it properly, and it's not too. You can't sort of. They're not complicated.
Yeah.
They're not You're not the menu driven ones where you have to. You'd have to try to access during a performance. Is really sort of doesn't seem right.
No. I had my first experience with PAMS Pro workout, which is which has a menu on the front, because I did say that I was going to do a video of me trying it out for the first time. I do have time for that. Sometimes you just got to get stuck in, and so as part of the case I built for the jam with Lula, I thought, sod it, I'll put it in there and just see what it does. I don't know. And it's remarkably intuitive. It's like, right, so look, it just does that. And I had it running as my clock. I mean, I didn't quite understand exactly why the clocks were working, because I'm not used to posh clocking. My clock is, I've got a module which clocks and it just goes bump, bump, bump. There you go. It's a clock. It's a beats per minute, all that kind of thing. Whereas PAMS is all about quarter note pulses per square root of something around. There's all these 24 notes going on. It's like, what is going on? I just want a little beat. So other than trying to get my head around those little bits, it was really simple. I mean, I've only scratched the surface, but I was able to get like Euclidean rhythms out of it, because I was trying to do something comparing it to the microgrids to see whether the two would work together. So it was interesting. What a beautiful little module. So I can see. Thanks, Paulie, commenting on my posh clocking. What was I saying? Yeah. So I can see why people like it, and it is very surface driven. There's not a whole lot of depth to the menu, which is really helpful. So it's just a couple of things to get in hang of, pushing that button down and changing the right thing. So I'm going to spend some more time with that, but I will try to not spend too much time before I then discover it on video, because I think that could be helpful to people, I think. Right, let's throw us in. Right, let me see if I can pull off some amazing bit of video. How am I going to do it? Because hang on. Oh, get off. Where was that? I was on a thing which let me do. Okay, so what I want to do is that, don't I? Yeah, then I want to do this.
It's gold dust. This is.
Wait. Now I can't see whether that's working, because if I do, then I lose everything. Is that working?
Great. Rack 2. Yeah.
Rack 2.
Brilliant.
Oh, we start with that. Okay,
We've
so
moved into different positions on the screen. It's just wonderful.
look at that. Oh, we're just fantastic. So I've lost the chat. 1 second. Let me bring that back. Where was that? Oh, there's that thing. Good. Okay, so my thoughts on looking at the best of 2022 was to take just remind ourselves of a couple of things from each month, and then potentially talk about what we thought was the nicest of that month. So I'm not going to hang about too long. So for January, we saw the release of VCV Rack 2, which is a huge update to the original VCV Rack, which kind of filled in all the holes and more or less sorted out all the problems. Well, of course, depending on who you speak to. So there was that. That was a big thing of January. The other thing was the Erica synths.
Quickly go back.
Yeah.
Go back to that. Can you go back? I mean, look.
Yeah.
Look. Bottom right. VCV Rack.
Oh, yeah, look at that. You see?
See?
It's got bleed and everything. I mean, it's so clever. I mean, I find it a little bit overwhelming, to be honest, because it's like you right-click to select a module. It's like, good Lord, what on earth am I going to do? So I go through big process of taking modules out so that I can just get to something simple to try to do something. But once the Molten modular one arrives, which could be any time, I'll put together a bunch of patches with it just for fun, and then people can have those.
I think VCV Rack is. I mean, one of the criticisms that can be aimed at the whole of this modular thing is it's ridiculous. The outlay you may have to weigh out. We know, they're boutique makers and they've got to cost a certain amount of money, and we know that as well. But if you decide to fill up a couple of cases full of stuff, you've got a few thousand quid's worth of stuff there that is out of the remit of a lot of people. So VCV Rack is fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, you really can dive in and you can get the full experience as well. So yeah, it's obviously not as hands on, but even so, still a marvelous resource.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could also throw in at this point the modular controller for it. The guy, this is just off the top of my head now, so I don't have the information to hand, but modular is a guy who put together these MIDI controllers. I've got one which is really nice, but he's done this patchable controller which mirrors VCV Rack, which sounds a bit weird, but you can actually patch your MIDI controller and it's then reflected in VCV Rack, which it's some form of witchcraft, I think. But that's how it works. It's amazing. I need to look into it in a bit more depth at some point. That was definitely a highlight of January. The other highlight of January I've got is the Erica Synth. I didn't pick the right page. The EDU DIY system that I built over the course of the year. It started in January, and we put that bloody thing together month after month. 9 modules and a case and power supply. But it was a phenomenal piece of work by Moritz Klein and Erica Synths. And I think it was just brilliant. I'd love to see that somehow developed into an educational series that schools take on, or something or other. It feels like it needs something. It needs some legs now to do something else. It's a great series, and I learnt tons and tons about circuits and stuff. Just amazing.
Well, if you go back to your original point about the fact that you were doing DIY online, and the fact that it was sort of just adult Lego, is a valid point. You're just putting together. You haven't got a clue what you're putting together. You just as long as you can solder, you're off and running and follow instructions. But that's another level. If you really want to learn about what you're doing, that's such a clever idea. Obviously, you need a bit more. You need the time. And that's obviously a commodity we're all sort of struggling for, and especially now that everything's going back to normal, maybe those sorts of things are not so easy to fit into a busy work schedule. But even so, if you've got a hobby and you really want to learn about how things work, that thing looks amazing.
Yeah, and it sounds good too. It's a good. You end up at the end of the day with a good little modular synth. So the other thing was the Soft Pop 2, which I don't know a whole lot about, but I just remember it being good. But they've done an update to it recently, which added a whole oscillator. I don't know how you do that in a firmware update, but that's what they did. Have I got that right? I think I have. Who knows? and no one's going to be checking this afterwards. But anyway, it's a crazy kind of box which does crazy sounds, and you've got these sliders on the front, so it's very performance orientated. We just go to town on the sliders, which are like macro controllers, I suppose, over the synth. This I really liked.
Ooh,
this
what's
was
that?
the
I missed
ST,
that.
Yeah, this is the ST modular Lange, I don't know, something like that. It's like, do you know the Make Noise shared system case from Make Noise? They've got this middle 1U strip.
Yes,
that sort of distributes CV all over the place, and that's what this does. So you plug CV into one of these 3 holes here, I think, and it comes out of these other ones, so it spreads it through your rack.
The super mult.
A super mult, that's exactly what it is. And there's also got like a satellite one too, so you can send signals all over the place in a really beautifully done way. So I really liked that. The other thing that happened,
I remember I remember when I first got presented with a case of stuff that I asked Matt Tech Modular to put together for me, and he very kindly did when Matt Tech was in business. And there was a mult in there. Didn't have a clue what it was. Didn't realise. Utilities that you come to appreciate the more you've done this. That when you first get it, you think, "What on earth is that? Why do I need one of those?" And then all of a sudden, you need a mult. It's essential.
It is. Yeah, totally. And the other thing which was interesting, I thought, was Endless. We had that live stream where we talked to Gaz and Ben Jordan and Tim from Endless.
Yes.
Talking about NFTs of all things. Whatever happened to that malarkey? But Endless as a system of jamming with people online there's nothing quite like it. It's an extraordinary piece of work which has created a whole community of people who jam together, which is great. So
did you jam with Gaz? Did you ever jam with Gaz during?
Oh yeah, no, yes, but not via this. Funny enough, through something else called Elk Audio, which we did sort of like a day's worth of sessions on, trying to get that to work, and that's real time jamming online.
This is
which you can't do, which is this thing here. So playing live together. It's very, very low latency, so real timeable, jamming with each other over the internet. And it's very, very interesting. And it worked for the most part. And we're just waiting for a little bit of, just waiting for Gaz to find the time to finish his video. That's all we're doing. And then we'll put out some information about it.
Oh, great. Does it require a certain bandwidth?
It does.
What's the minimum you can get away with? I sort of have semi-gas internet even now.
Yeah, there are limitations in the sort of internet speed that you need, and also, I mean, we were working about 200 miles away, and it was absolutely fine. And you can go up much further than that, but there are limitations and things you have to work out, I think, and you need to have a decent internet connection in the first place. But it absolutely bloody worked. Without any doubt. So it was quite an extraordinary experience, because it was like being in the same room with somebody, even having the conversation, because like the conversation we're having now, you have that delay and you talk over each other, and it gets a little bit in the way of each other. But through that, we could talk like we were just sitting in a pub talking, and it was just brilliant, totally brilliant. So there will be videos on that coming soon. When's
the album? The album's out in 2024. Can't wait.
Yes.
Can't wait.
So that's January. How much time did that waste? Oh my goodness. So coming into February, we have the Wave Phonics. You've got that sequencer, haven't you? This one here.
A lovely sequencer. Yes, that I actually got modifications to it to make it only 2 octaves. I think the next version's going to have that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of octaves for those little pots to sweep through. So I got it changed. It went back to the factory, wherever the factory is.
Because you can offset it on the oscillator. Because you can offset it on the oscillator, can't you, really? You've tuned the oscillator up to the sort of octave range that you want, and then you've just got the 2 octaves on the knobs. So that's ideal. That's perfect. Yeah.
And it works better. I couldn't get. It was too sensitive with many
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. They've just released a blue and a red one, I believe. But the W614, that's like that entire system. So they've had this idea of selling entire systems, and that's £2,000, which is ex VAT. So a bit more than that, obviously, which is not bad for a kind of a handmade analog modular system. That's pretty good. They do a good job.
I think the only problem with that price point is that it still seems like a hell of a lot, and it is a hell of a lot of money. And anybody that's starting to get into that world is probably and wants to buy loads of modules, may be in a position where they can buy whatever they want, or they can choose and pick and choose. So you wonder whether they'll go down that road of complete. I don't know how many people have got complete systems.
I've never met anyone who's bought a complete system from anybody. There's the Make Noise shared system. There's Erica Synths do that big techno system and bits and pieces like that, which seem phenomenal. And I can imagine, I guess if you're a professional producer and you want to bring some modular into your studio, then that perhaps makes sense.
Yeah.
But the journey I think that the vast majority of us go on is you have a semi-modular, something that you quite like, and then you might add an effect in modular, or you might add an oscillator, and then you start poking around and it snowballs from there. I think that's much more the likely route that most people follow. GeForce released their crazy Oberheim thing, the 8 SEMs in a block, and that sounded extraordinary. And it was the first software synth endorsed by Tom Oberheim himself, I believe. So that happened in February. That's very good. Very good. This Voltage Vibes, bless them. I like Voltage Vibes, not just because they did the Molten Hole, but for other reasons too.
The Molten Hole.
Yeah, that comes up later in the year. Great. Yeah, the idea of this is that it. Can I make that? Oh no, there we go. This is for anything, but the idea is it brings the back end of like a MIDI controller keyboard or a CV controller keyboard or something like the grandmother or the matriarch. It brings all of those outputs on the back and stuffs them into your rack. So it gives you proper access to everything rather than trying to reach around the back of these big synths in order to plug things in. It lets you wire that in once and then you can patch it within your rack, which is a lovely, simple and useful idea for people who have those sorts of things. So it's simple. Oh look, here's my Europie and Consequentia. So this is the module here. It's a strange looking thing from Alan Synthesis. Now he was at Synthfest. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. He's like a college student who's created this platform onto which you can upload various different firmwares. Oh
yes, I saw that. Yeah.
And the one I was using was this one called Consequentia, which is grids, and it has some Turing machine in it as well. I never really understood it. I just turned a few knobs and it did things. So that's my style, man. So that was that one.
Look at that color coding as well.
Yeah. And then lastly, just a bit of stuff from Rico Synth. Now, Arthur Synth, Arthur Jolly, is an awesome person, and he's built some extraordinary synthesizers, of which
there's a gentleman from Brazil.
That's right, yeah, from Brazil. Yeah. But they seem to be drying up, which is terribly sad. He did send one to the Matuka, the blue one, this one here. He sent one to Heimbach, who gave it a really good going on one of his videos. And he mentioned how Arthur is thinking of just shutting it down because there's just not enough business out there, which is really sad because he makes beautiful synthesizers and drum machines. And so if anybody has the ability to buy stuff from Brazil, then do go seek him out, because it would be a terrible loss if they stopped making stuff, because they're just gorgeous, these things. Oh no, don't want that. Lovely retro, beautifully made stuff that would sit on your desktop and just look gorgeous. So that's Rico Synth. So it was in February they released the drum machines at this one, I think, ultimately. which is
sort of
an old school analog drum machine. There you go.
Sort of semi alternative route to the Soma stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Not quite so mad.
Similar sort of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so shout out to Tim Shoebridge of Sound Mangling. Tim Shoebridge is a fabulous guy with a fabulous way of photographing and filming things. There's a cinematic quality to all the stuff that he does, which is fabulous. But what he did this year was which one was it that I was particularly interested in? The polyphonic pressure generator. So he was able to use a little app. He created this little piece of software that takes all of your MIDI out of your regular MIDI keyboard and turns it into polyphonic aftertouch, polyphonic pressure, which you can use. So it turns any keyboard into an MPE keyboard, essentially. I can't remember how, but it bloody does it. And it's extraordinary. And it's just a little piece of software that he's running through Voltage Modular. And that allows you to patch in any MIDI keyboard to anything and use it as an MPE controller. Just extraordinary. He did a couple of other things as well. He did something for the Nymphus, a controller for that, CV controller. Just a really clever, and a polychain where you can polychain anything. So you can use any sort of synthesizer, put them together and use it as a polyphonic synthesizer. Just simple, brilliant things.
There's some clever people out there, aren't there?
There really are. There really are. Can I be bothered to talk about Behringer? All right, then we'll move on. Korg, no, can't be bothered. That's a Behringer related one. Feedback modules, there you go. I'll skip across a little bit. Feedback have this wonderful thing, the Punk. It's it doesn't get it any bigger at all. It's like a distortion. You've got two sorts of distortion in there, a diode and a FET. You stick stuff in, turn up the knobs, it just sounds awesome. And this A glows in the dark as well, or glows up behind itself. So it's just a fantastic thing. That was March's highlight.
That's good. I mean, it's one of the few things I haven't got, I think, as a module is a feedback. I mean, usually what I do is I just turn it up too loud so it all distorts anyway. But yes. I mean, it's the equivalent of a guitar pedal, isn't it, in that area?
It is, yeah. I mean, that's a good point, actually, because very few effects modules, if any, in Eurorack have a bypass. And I find that very frustrating. Sometimes you just want to, you've got things going through things and you've got to create a whole other routing system in order to not have the effect in. Do you know what I mean? And just a bypass would be such a useful thing to have, I think, on a module. He also does really good mixers. Good stuff.
Oh, well. Ah, yes.
Yeah.
So 2022 is also the year of the frustration of mixers for me. I need to sort out the send and returns on my hex mix. There's noise is bleeding through them somehow. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, and also very few of the mixers have the ability to pre-hear before you send it out. So there's a market, I think, certainly if you're playing live, to be able to have a mixer that you can actually hear before it goes out. And I know there's probably workarounds, but the mixer I've got to do that is an Erica Synths one, and that's also got, it bleeds through a bit. And perhaps it's the problem of Eurorack and it's everything is miniaturized, that this is a problem. But I'm still looking for a module that has send and returns, but also has pre-hear. I've got the wrong terminology there.
A Q channel.
A queuing channel. Yes. Yeah. So, and I'm still searching for one. So maybe that's got it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have a look. Mixers and sequences.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I've got the BX, one of these. It's a great mixer, and it does distortion by itself. Like you say, you don't really need a distortion module, because if you just pump it up a bit too much, it has a really nice overdriven sound to it. I have a little bit of a problem with the second auxiliary, unfortunately, so it's not quite perfect. But again, I just need to sit down and have a look at it, and I'm sure I can find what the problem is. It's just one of those things. Pre-fade listen. Ken saying, is it pre-fade listen though? Because that's, I suppose, is it? Oh, who knows? That sounds. I mean, pre-fade is more of a mixer thing where you where you're checking
Gaz
the
will know.
incoming levels. Yeah, Gaz would know. Gaz would know, exactly. So moving on into
It's
April.
great if you, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's World Championship. That's where I sort of switch off a bit because I have to do the World Championship. That's why it was being tricky in the past going to Super Booth. Although I could have just about made Super Booth, but that was in May now, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll do that one in a minute. There was a bit more Korg. I'm kind of thinking I don't care what that was. We'll talk about that. Stolper Beats. I liked this. I still haven't had a chance to. I still haven't been. They haven't sent me one. Is what I'm trying to say. no matter how many hints I dropped, or I'd be really nice to have a go on one of those. I said in many articles about it. I did get to play with it at Super Booth and had a really great demo. Actually, they were very, very nice. But I wasn't able to walk away with one. They did give me a blanking panel, which was lovely, but I did want a real go. But that was a real highlight, I think. It's just interesting.
Trigger sequence, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a trigger sequence.
Looks, yeah. I've got Steppy. I mean, Steppy's.
Yeah.
4 channels. That's an easy peasy one.
Yeah. It's probably more complicated, but you just push things off the grid, which is which kind of like. No, I haven't had a drum log, Ian. Thank you. They have sent me the software though. I think one of the Korg things was all of their software. There's now the Wave State, the Op6, and now the Mod Wave. They've all got native software versions. So I think that's why Korg's on this list. So that was a good thing this year. All 3 now, and they are great. And where am I back at Voltage 5s again? Probably.
Let's start shopping.
It was for this. It was for Molten's Hole. Because I commented on his other thing. I suggested that you needed some way of routing
the black hole.
Of routing patch cables to the back of your modular. Because how his other back to front thing works is that you patch in behind and then it gives you all the patch points out the front. So I suggested he have some kind of grommeted hole. So he created this thing called Molten's Hole, which is just lovely.
Right. Obviously, the only trouble is you have to make sure you don't get any other modules too close to it, otherwise it just swallows them up.
It does, yeah.
It does. Black hole.
There was a Roland thing. I don't really care about that. Let's stay with the interesting things. Oh, Create Audio. Well, they had both the function junction and the keyboard, the nifty keys, out this year, as well as the East Beast and West Pest, which we'll see. We can all talk about them at the same time. But a great thing, an enormous chunky way of racking up your modules into a playable paradigm. It had a great sort of arpeggiator thing built in. The way the voices worked, in that you could build a 4-voice polyphonic synthesizer out of modules off the front, and just like that, and it worked brilliantly. I think it's a great piece of kit for people who need to feel they've got something they can play. It's not for everybody, but for those people who feel at a loss without a keyboard, I think it was a great thing to see. So
yeah, Gaz has had something from another company that he's used. That I think he's had
the Waldorf one. I think he's had.
Yeah. So that looks like a niftier one of those.
So when we went then into Super Booth, probably the queen of the show was the Oberheim OBX8. I got a chance to play this at Synthfest, and it was nice. It was a lot less fussy than I imagined. I imagined it would be covered in knobs, and it's not. It's actually quite, not sparse exactly, but just clear and simply laid out, and you know what it is you have to do, and it makes big synthy type sounds. So
how much are they? Are they a few quid?
They are 4K. So a little bit.
You've got to be able to play the piano.
Yeah. Roland. The other reason I think I picked Roland was for the little mini ones. Can I see it on here? I can't pick it out. But the little Ira. The little, what am I talking about? Those ones, the compacts, Ira compacts. And the Juno X for that matter, but the compact in particular. Oh dear, come on. Work it out. These little fellas, they are just joyful little boxes of techno. You plug them together, one's making chords, one's making a bass line and a 808 drum machine type thing, And then there's this weird vocal thing that I don't really care about. But the other two are just great little boxes. You can't help but have fun playing with them. They work together beautifully. One sounds a bit like a Juno. The other one sounds like your techno set of bass line and drum machine. Great. Fantastic. Good job.
Similar to the Korg series, I suppose, isn't it? But seem like they're a bit more up to date with their playability, just looking at that, rather than some complex. I never got any further. I bought those little the Korg.
The Volkers.
Never got them out of the box in the end. There's the Volkers. It seemed like it was too much of a learning curve.
I know what you mean. Yeah, these are simple and playable straight out of the box. You're doing it. It's so much simpler, I found, than the Volkers.
God, he's enjoyed it. He's enjoyed himself there, isn't he? Look at the fun he's having. I mean, look at the smile on his face when he starts tapping those. All of them are enjoying themselves so much. Look at him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's great audio again. The pizza. Yes. So this is one of my favourite modules of the year, I think. The pizza from Bustle Instruments. It's good. I can't move the screen. You're just going to have to deal with it. Oh, can I click on that? There we go. Brilliant. Why it's good, in my view, is because it's like having a complex oscillator, but without any of that complexity business. So I've struggled with complex oscillators where usually means you've got two oscillators in a box. One of them seems to be making sound. The other one just seems to be messing everything up for you. And you spend the whole time chasing some kind of sound. There's a sound in here that I'm going to like in a minute, as it's just going clang, clang, all that horrible FM and metallic stuff going on. And I know, I mean, it must be good because it's huge and it's complicated and it's got lots of ins and lots of outs of your regular complex oscillator. But I just find I can't find anything in it that I like so far. The pizza came along and I knew exactly what it was when it came out. I thought, that's what it is. It's like doing FM, but in a way that's tuneful and melodic and pleasing to the ear. And so you just have a couple of knobs, a couple of sliders, and it has this internal way of modulating itself, as well as wave shaping, folding, and ring modulating, all these weird sort of things. But whatever you do with it, it kind of sounds nice. And as you push it out to the extremes and it gets really rowdy, when you slide it back in, it suddenly all calms itself down into these beautiful little sine waves and tones. So you can rescue it from the edge that it's about to fall over. And so it gives me an opportunity to use slightly more edgy sounds rather than just going analog waveform into filter. I've now got some stranger, more glassy, edgy, angrier sounds that I can just dial in and also dial them back out. So when you get a little bit too scared, you can just rein it in a little bit. And it's just really, really nice. And simple and doesn't require me doing very much, which is good.
I saw this. You did this as a demo, I think, and it's on my list. But I'm operating a strict 1 in 1 out policy at the moment now. So I've got to get rid of. I just need somebody who wants to get my my Variegate 8 to upgrade from a 4. Then I can get the pizza. That's all I need.
Yeah, okay.
Just need some mug to buy my Variegate 8. I don't know where. Perhaps I'll buy a stall. Between the two of us, we buy a stall. We can rent a stall off of you at
Synth East. Yeah, it's very reasonable.
We can sell all of our unwanted, all our unwanted modules.
Well, we could definitely do that. I mean,
bring your own.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. We're at Synthfest, Synth East. Oh my God, called it the right thing. At Synth East, I will have all my gear out. Going to have a table and my stuff, and we'll be there, and you can talk to us, and I can talk about our rigs, and anything is possible. There could be bartering going on. If you bring,
I've got a sign. Everything you see is for sale.
Yeah, exactly.
Me. Yeah,
I'll get some T-shirts printed. The whole lot. Everything.
I hope you'll be selling the Molten modular and wonderful T-shirts. The jellyfish,
I'll try.
Get a load. I think you'll clean up with that. That's just a great T-shirt.
Well, maybe there needs to be a Synth East exclusive T-shirt version. Yeah, a revision. A little Synth East logo on it somewhere. Maybe. The other thing we had was the Look Mum No Computer Cosmo in Eurorack. I did the build on those, the filter and the oscillator, which were great. No, I didn't do a build at all. That's rubbish. I had the real things built for me. That's what I had. And they're great. I mean, they're a bit weird and different, but really great to see those in a Eurorack version.
Has Sam, has he been more specific with the resistors he's using in these ones? 'Cause
I don't
remember. Do you remember? I mentioned it the last time. I reminded myself of the fact you were busy building away the big one, and then he went, "Oh, I haven't got any of those resistors." Sam went, "Oh, just stick any old resistor in." It sort of exploded the myth of it all. Maybe he's got it down to a fine art with the Eurorack one version.
I think so. I mean, the guy Christian who's taken it on, he's doing it on Sam's behalf, I suppose. He sort of does it properly ultimately, and has to make a few decisions on those sorts of things. No, I mean, Sam's amazing. It just blew my mind doing that little session with him building his Cosmo thing. Just this idea that components are interchangeable, or it's not. There are laws and rules and physics and that kind of thing, but there's such leeway in what you can put in and what works together, and it's it was mad.
I really like the idea. There's a tuner in that, isn't there? I think.
Yes.
Has it got its own tuner? That's like a sort of perfect, isn't it?
That's great in live performance. Okay, halfway through the year, how are we doing? And we're going to shut up in a minute. I'll try to skip to the interesting things. Apollo View, the rabbit hole. That is a phenomenal module. If you're looking for distortion, this thing here, I mean, it just looks the absolute bomb. Doesn't get any bigger, sadly. But that's a whacking great big tube in the middle there that sticks out the front. So that's a little bit, could be nasty if you've got a close-fitting case. But otherwise, you stick stuff in and this sound comes out. It just takes hold of whatever it is that's going in there and amplifies different bits, and these tones come out, this feedback comes back through. It's just amazing. I really like it. And it's a VCA ultimately, I think you can use it as. But heck, it has some life, some life in there. So big up to them.
Is that in your live rack? Are you?
Not at the moment. It's in my. I've just built it and would like to do some more videos on it rack. So and there's also a companion to it that's called the Curiouser, which adds more channels, I think, which I need to build. So there's more to be done on that before I start using it. And I'm not sure about distortion in live performance either, because I don't always sure that I can hear well enough in the first place. To then try to overdrive something, is that going to be helpful to me? Is it just going to contribute to the mush? I don't know. So, not sure. This thing I think was quite interesting at it was at Super Booth, but it actually turned up again in June time. I don't know a whole lot more about it other than it was an interesting processor. The MIDI K ARP, I've got one up here on the shelf, which I did a little video of. I'd like to do more if I can ever find the time. It's a 4-channel arpeggiator, little desktop unit, which is a lot of fun to play with. The guy sent me one and I did a little video, and he said he sold out like within a couple of days. So that's great. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to help little manufacturers along who have a great idea and need a little bit of hand along the way. That's boring, but I'm always on the lookout for my ideal audio interface, and that might be it. So that was a highlight. That's a bit more Create Audio. Let's move to July. So they then pulled the SEM out of the Oberheim. That's not very interesting. This is a bit more interesting. The Euphoria from ST Modular. So this is a massive semi-modular synthesizer that you build yourself. Everything that ST Modular do, he puts them out as PCBs with a bit of surface mount on and front panels, and you have to build the rest yourself. So this is going to be a big DIY project. Do they have a better picture of it? Not exactly.
Obviously last year, whenever our last video was, I asked you on the progress of the Hans Zimmer machine. What
was that?
What's that? What's it called? The
I don't know what you're talking about.
What's that one? Oh, you do. I think you do. I'm going to ask you. What's it called? I can't think of the name.
The Deckard's Dream. Legendary Deckard's Dream. Yeah.
Of course it was.
It's doing very well.
How's How's? I mean, do you need any therapy? How's it
Yeah,
going? Because I was expecting to have the video when you turn it on, and it still
yeah.
hasn't. I mean, I know you're
No,
busy.
I know it is purely that. I mean, I've done a good load of DIY recently, which has been good. It's been good for my soul, I think, and I've enjoyed working through a few modules that I've had for far too long. And the Deckard's Dream is the one I was planning to do. You know, at the end of this little series of DIY, I'm going to do a day on that, and that day is still a potential day. Any day could be a Deckard's Dream day. I just have to start the day going, oh damn, it's already running away with me. So potentially this week, if not, it will just have to be the new year. But it is absolutely always on my mind, and it's bits of it are down there, bits of it are over there, and I desperately want to get it done.
The thing is now, Robin. The thing is, we want it. We want the finished. We don't care now about where you're up to in it. We don't. We just want we want to see it finished, and then the switch on night.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Another year's gone by. I mean,
well, look, how about this? How about I commit that it will be there. It will be there to be seen at Synth East. Oh God, at Synth East, I'll have it on the desk, finished.
No.
Yes.
So, so that's it. The ceremonial turning on. You're not allowed to test it out.
I don't know about that.
It's got to be on a table on the stage on its own. You're going to walk up, cut a ribbon, and then you press the on button
with safety goggles. Yeah. Oh, I don't know, but I'll have it finished. I'll definitely have it finished. It will be there, I think.
Well,
I promise.
That's brave words.
It is. But the Euphoria, on the other hand, is like a Buchla inspired. It's like the music easel, but in ST modular style. Yeah. So that's going to be nice. No, don't worry about that one. Neutral Labs, lovely. I like Neutral Labs. They do interesting things. And they've sent me a Scrat, which is a filter where you stick weird stuff in the resonance circuit. So it's got these holes in the resonance circuit. Somebody said Control Plus. That's exciting. Dig. So you see this, you jam a load of stuff in it to make it sound different. I mean, that's kind of crazy, but I like it. And they've produced these like preset things. So you stick this one in and it goes kind of weird, put this one in, it goes weirdly different. So I quite like that. I'm going to definitely build that one, I think. Make Noise XPO, no one cares about that. Let's shuffle on. Future Sound Systems did a Phil 4 Timbrel Sculptor. I mean, Finley is playing at our gig, of course, and he's amazing, and the stuff he does is amazing. But I also find much of it slightly out of reach. It's not. I don't quite always grasp what it is that Future Sound Systems are one of those slightly higher level modular firms that just do stuff that's it's not for everyone, perhaps, but amazing stuff.
It feels like there's not a bad module he makes, but even if you're not, even if it's out of, I don't know,
amazing stuff.
Yeah.
This here, the Vector Wave from RYK, met Jake, is it? Oh God, I get his name wrong. At Synthfest. It's fantastic. I mean, I love his M185 sequencer. I think that's fantastic. I've got it in a box. I don't use it anywhere near enough. But it is a really, really great sequencer. And this is an interesting, completely unrelated companion to it. And it's a weird module that I'm having to do a review on, which means I'm going to have to get under the skin of. And it's a Vector Wave, but it's really an FM synth. But you can put 4 patches around this joystick, which makes it a bit of a vector synthesis, FM synthesis kind of thing. So it's deep. There's a lot in here. An interesting LCD interface, which can show all sorts of things. But it's a bit mind-boggling. So I'm going to have to sort of sit down carefully and think about that.
Good luck with that one.
Thank you. That's the ASQ one, which I talked about. It's great. Yeah. It's wonderful. Light. It's very tuneful, very melodic. You've got 2 channels of melody and then 4 triggers for drums. So it can run your whole show. I haven't fully investigated yet, but it has that thing again, like what we like using grids for, which is that variation. You end up programming patterns. You've got your 8 steps along here. You can put your drum patterns in, but they end up that very samey, of course. So you're going to have to be programming lots of patterns and then swapping between them. And I haven't quite gotten to the bottom of that yet. So it's a really great module. I'm enjoying using it a great deal, but I haven't quite got all the way into it yet. Talk about Cherry Audio a little bit, because they've released a lot of synths this year. The Elka X was one, Signs was the other, and of course now the GX80. Probably, I mean, I think ultimately Signs, is it easy to come by, is probably a more innovative synthesizer for software synths. It's this one. So I think that is probably the best thing they've done this year. However, yeah, it's a bit weird to look at. You can't, I mean, the GX80 has to be the most impressive, because this is a take on the CS80 and the GX1, which came before the CS80. And it's a fantastic piece of work. It's an extraordinary synthesizer. You've got a Descartes voice, haven't you? Have you got a Descartes voice? No, Gaz has. That's right. That's who I was speaking to about it. So there's some familiarity in there, but it's still a bonkers piece of equipment. But Cherry Audio have done extraordinary synths this year. Just absolutely amazing. And they're all $39, $59. They're just really well priced. Great synths. I really like this, the PF3. I've got that on my desk here. It's great. So much fun to have with that. Wire it into your Eurorack and you've got a whole desktop twin filter, Polivox filter going on, or run your normal synths through it. Just super. A lot of fun. And it sounds exactly like it's supposed to.
Going back to ALM Busy Circuits, I had the pleasure of going down to their factory and having a wander around with Gaz this summer. Great bunch of lads down there, and they really do wonderful equipment, and bought the MFX and one that item you just showed before that. Obviously, you need some sort of, an interface to play into Eurorack, I assume, and ALM do. Is it called the BS about that? And do a BSG. They do a little small interface module for pedals. I use that a lot. That's great.
Okay.
Brings them up to Eurorack level. And
oh yeah. I know what you mean. This actually worked both line level and Eurorack level without too much trouble. Funnily enough, just all by itself. Yeah, really great. I've reviewed that for Sound on Sound, so that should be out in the next issue, I think. But spoilers, yeah, it's great. I really liked it. So getting there now before my voice gives out. Sound Freak. This is an extraordinary woman who builds synthesizers for, I forget now, damn it. But ultimately, she's been pulling the insides out of EMS VCS3s, out of Putney synthesizers, and putting them into the 4U format, which is the Surge Buchla format. And so this is essentially a VCS3, a classic British synthesizer in modular form.
Wow.
She does amazing work. That's that one. The Theravox I thought was really interesting. The Ondas VCO. I don't know enough about it to talk about it really, other than to say what a beautiful piece of work. And Mark Doty has just done a video all about the Theravox. It's some kind of weird 1930s synthesizer reimagined for these days. So that's interesting. Bafako, bless him, and the Pony VCO. It's a great little oscillator, small space, and with the wavefold, is it wavefolding? Yeah, that gives it a little bit of flavour within the oscillator itself. So really good space-saving oscillator. Really like that. The Nautilus, I'm still trying to get to the bottom of. It's a delay module with lots of sort of undersea world on the front, which is lovely. It does weird things. I've sort of used it, but I've not noticed what it's done. So I used it and playing with it, and I know it's doing something, but I haven't really focused on what it is actually doing. But it always does nice things. So
it's similar to. Is there another one? Is it Andrew Huang has had a module out, or to put his name to a module that's an all singing, all dancing multi effects unit with the Ghost. That's the one. Yes.
Yeah, that looked. I don't know whether it felt too complicated for me. I wasn't sure what I was going to hope to do with it. Trinity is looking good. I'm working with that at the moment and starting to enjoy that. But ModBap just do superb modules every time. They knock it out of the park with whatever it is that they do. They seem to have this crunch to them. They have a workflow which is uncommonly intuitive and simple and just goes through, and it does what it's supposed to. It delivers every time, same as the Osiris did before that, their wavetable oscillator. Just quality bits of modular.
Do you think you'll if you're having a live rig setup, do you think you'd go with that or the Plethora and the Perkle combo?
That's a good question. My first impressions, I think, would be this is awesome. The other first impression is that I have to press a shift button to select which of the 3 channels I'm playing with. That is the only thing that gives me pause. So you go to grab that character and, okay, which channel am I affecting? Which channel? I'm not sure. And then you've moved all the knobs and they're now all different. So when you go to the next channel, they don't really represent what the next channel is doing. So it will take a little bit of thought when you have multi-use or multi-layered modules like that. So changing the character on one thing and having it on the wrong channel by accident and then messing everything up. So there's lots of room for destroying your patch, as well as it being a really useful collection of sounds. So yeah, I think there's going to be 2 sides to that one. Whereas the Plethora and the Shaper thing, the 4-channel, what do you call it? Perkle, thank you.
Perkle.
You have stuff going in it, and you've got 4 channels, and you've got 4 sliders, and you can, you play with them immediately, and you know exactly what it is that it's doing. So, interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. I don't know. I'm just going to have to see how that goes.
You probably need a Variegate 8 to control both of them.
Yeah, I probably do. Would it be a plus version, or was it just the Gate version?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So in October did we have my thing? Was that October? Was that? Oh, it's November. Look, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but hey, that was a thing. Let's move on.
That must have been exciting. That must have been exciting.
Yeah, it was. I mean, me and Manu have been talking about it for about 18 months, and it was really great to see it come through and finally be there. It's an immense thrill, I have to say, to have something out there, and also the reception was just amazing.
Yeah,
because you don't know how well it's going to be received, and people have been enormously nice and kind about it. I mean, DivKid as well did a fantastic.
It shows you how to use it. It shows you how to use it.
I know.
That's great.
I'm feeling around going, so what am I using this for again? I don't even remember why we came up with this idea. And then DivKid goes, well, do this, and just go, wow, that's amazing. Who came up with that? So yeah, I mean, thanks ever so much to Ben for sorting that out. That was just an extraordinary. He
video. Sold. I think DivKid's upped his game.
Yeah. He has. Yeah.
I think he's come back strong with, and his demos. I'm starting to understand them, and that's great. I love it. He's sold me on the Step 8, the Duranalog Step 8. That's another one. When I can sell a module for somebody in the Norwich area, I'm buying a Step 8.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't watched that video. I noticed he'd done it. I haven't seen that video yet. But yeah, I agree. He really has. I mean, his production values have all gone up as well. The fact he's put himself on the videos, I think, is great as he introduces them, and all the sort of the tagging and the bits of information that now go on. Yeah, they're really, really great. I mean, they were always good, but now, as you say, they're a little bit more, just that little bit more accessible to those of us who don't know all the lingo. So yeah, top job. This I thought was good. And I knew what I was talking about with this.
Oh, yeah.
I talked about this on Sonic State, and Nick said, oh, no, it can record multi-channel. It can't. So it can only record in stereo, which is why is exactly what I said it was. This is why I like it, because you can't mix after the event. So you plug all your synths in and you get out a stereo mix. That's all you want. That's all. That's the whole doorless experience. You perform it, you make the music, and you've got your 2-channel recorder. That's it.
Or you buy a reel-to-reel tape recorder and take it on the back of a bike and you go to the riverbank.
You do.
Or get one of those, whichever one you want to go down.
I have to say, because I've recorded me and Lula on there, and it seems like the rewind isn't working anymore. It's rewinding, and then it started slowing down, and now it's going, oh. It's like, but why? But why?
Ask Heimbach.
Yeah.
Heimbach can sort it out. Send it on to him.
But the Sentrance Bouncer is just a simple little desktop mixer, 8 channels, is it? I think 10 channels possibly. With an SD card you can record to. Otherwise, you can send it to your computer, whatever. But I just liked it as a desktop little mixer.
How does that compare to, say, the super duper Zoom?
Well, only in that it's simpler. I think the Zoom. Do you mean the Zoom has got multi-channel faders and that mixer?
Yeah, isn't there one? There's a bit like a hexagonal one or something. You've got like sort of 8 ins or something like that. Does that record multiple channels?
Probably. Yeah. See, it's the limitation that I like, the enforced limitation of the 2-channel recording. But it's also quite expensive.
Not a sales pitch that many people are. You don't get the videos going. This is a really limited product.
Really limited, yeah,
yeah.
But that's why it's good in my view. But it's not cheap, not cheap. The Mini Freak, of course, the synthesizer, probably the most interesting synthesizer of the year. I think there have been plenty of synths, but the Mini Freak is definitely taking a quirky kind of fun synthesizer and turning it into something which feels proper. And I think they did a great job with that. They kept all the good stuff and pushed it out so it actually sounds like a proper synth that you're playing. So, yeah, I really like the Mini Freak. Good job. Good job. I still don't know what any of that stuff means, but it's still really good to play. So, yeah, I like that. I think we're there. A bit in November, we had the chord pilot from Modular. This is a fun thing. You store chords in it and you pump those out to things which appreciate chords. So it's a MIDI based module, which is not going to work for everything, but obviously perfect for their own polycinematic and a few other bits and pieces like that. So a perfect companion to what they're doing already, polycinematic there. But just really nice, well put together, does the job. I know exactly what he's trying to do, and so that really works for me, I think. A bit of Instruo. They've had a few. These 3, I think, came out this year. But the the utility mixer, I think is really a smart module. So it's like a Veils on the surface. So it's a 4-channel VCA. But each channel does something weird. Like the first one is panable or something. The second one is something to do with a op amp. Look at that Ken down there. Look. This one is invertible or something, and that one's a crossfader. So you can either use it as a VCA or you can use their like superpowers for doing strange other things. Something like that. But, your man at Instruo takes an hour and tells you about it, and it's a beautiful thing to watch and to experience as he opens these ideas up within this massive patch that he's playing with. So always a lot of time for Instruo.
And a British company, I suppose. Yeah. So
that'll do. I think that's plenty. That's lots and lots.
Yeah.
Lots and lots. But they were my highlights from the year, I guess.
Well, there's a few Christmas presents sorted out. You just gotta leave the video running in the background and hope somebody else, that Santa, spots something that you might earmark. If you log the time it was shown at. Yeah,
there we go. Like seamlessly, that was
seamless. Brilliant.
Oh, well, there we go. So
I'm worn out.
Well, I know, exhausting.
All this reviewing.
What was it? 10 o'clock. Look, we did our 2 hours. Phew.
Yeah.
Got in there. Well done. So, I guess we should wind this to a bit of a close, but if anybody in the chat has a question they'd like to put to Steve or myself, do that now while we pretend to finish up or something. So you are still doing more gigs next year. In fact, I'm going to go and see you at Epic Studios in April, I think it is, or at the end of March.
End of March. Yes, yeah. But as if my life hadn't got any weirder than in 2000. This last year, we had the pleasure. Utopia Strong had the pleasure, honor. I don't know what you call it, of supporting Magma, my favourite band from and we were supporting them. That was crazy enough. In March 2023, we're supporting the Steve Hillage band. Steve Hillage is going on the road and playing all the old classics from his era. I don't think it's much System 7 stuff. There's going to be the Steve Hillage, all of the stuff after he sort of left and went solo. Right. And we're going to be supporting him. So that should be great fun. Yeah, can't wait. And
I think Gong are playing as well, aren't they?
I think Steve Hillage band is the Gong band.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's right. Because I saw Gong at Epic a couple of weeks ago, and Carvis was saying that they were back in the following year with Steve Hillage, and I was trying to work out exactly what he meant by that. But of course, that's what he means, that they're essentially the band for him. Mm-hmm. Which so that should be a good night. It's a great venue. It's the first time I've been to Epic Studios, and it's a really nice venue. You sort of come in it sideways. So rather than coming in at the back and trying to drag yourself to the front, you all come in at the side. And so you're already at the front if you just sort of like shuffle in a bit to the side. Yeah. And it's got a great light show in there. Good, yeah. I was well impressed with that. And Gong were amazing. I mean, Osrix, for me, was more my thing, I think. And I never really cottoned onto the fact there was so much guitar in it. I always experienced it much more as a synthesizer thing with a little bit of lead in, but there was guitar all over it, and it was great. I mean, the drummer was extraordinary. How on earth he stayed together with all of the arpeggios and the other sequences that were going on. He didn't have headphones on or anything. He was just bashing along with it. It was quite extraordinary, but it was a great night of spacey, psychedelic stuff. Can't help but smile all the way through.
Any night that's got the riff when Gong play it is just wonderful.
Oh yeah, and are they releasing a single or something? He talked about there was this one track. Oh damn it, what was it? Is it about his space guitar or something? I can't remember. Anyway,
I don't know. My guitar's a spaceship or something.
Yeah, my guitar's a spaceship, maybe. But he kind of indicated that this was going to be the hit of next summer, which made me think they're releasing it as a single. But the funny thing about it was in 5/4 or something, and so there was this awesome groove that then stopped before you thought it would. So you're being thrown every time it went round, it threw you again. And I'm thinking, if they put this on the radio, people are going to go nuts. Their brains are going to melt and they can start throwing things. And it's like, no, make it stop because it doesn't fit. But it's a fantastic song. I just thought that was the most amazing thing. But it just had this, it got that far in this groove and then, it started again. Just, brilliant. I guess that's prog rock, man. That's
you had to be there. You had to be there.
You did have to be there.
Yes.
Yeah. So no questions. No one gives a monkeys. So that's good.
Perfect.
That means we must have satisfied everybody's hankering for anything.
They've all gone off to get they've all gone online for the Christmas presents. That's what's happened.
Yes.
I can't see the chat room. So. Oh,
okay. Apparently, I need to listen to Henge. And
Henge, yeah, good fun. Is it the Henge with Is it the Henge with they dress as monsters from an alien planet? That Henge? There's a couple of Henges. I don't know which one they're talking about.
Oh, no, they're great.
They're very entertaining. The Henge with the guy who's got is it the Faraday machine? What's that? Is it the Faraday machine? That's something on top of his head with the light thing.
Right.
And you touch it. No,
that's a Van de Graaff generator, probably, isn't it?
Oh, it's that. Yeah, mate. Yeah. Well, it's a fake one. That was great. He comes on stage and says, "Good evening, Earthlings." That's the first opening lines.
Oh, that sounds about right. What I loved about the gig as well is that afterwards, the Osrix, the whole band were there trying to sell you T-shirts afterwards. You know, you've got to do the whole thing. You've got to. That's the only way to make it work. I mean, all these old bands touring and stuff, they've still got to, try to flog the merch afterwards. It's
interesting. There's no, for a band like Osric Tentacles, I don't know, I wouldn't charge fortunes to go on the road. So the merch is quite an important part of it. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why Bandcamp's been great. I think for any artists. And Bandcamp Fridays throughout, and they still continue it during lockdown, and waiving their fees has been, what an incredible company they are. Compared to other companies that have not exactly helping artists, you've got to support Bandcamp, and you direct to the band as best you can is the only way to go, really.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been great. Although they have been bought out by Epic, was it? Somebody or other, which just puts that little bit of doubt in there, but it's still holding it together at the minute, which is good, I think. But yeah, it's definitely the best platform. I don't put anything anywhere else. I don't put anything anywhere else these days. I always put everything on Bandcamp. Yes, don't you believe it? Yes. So,
see everybody in March. I assume everybody that's listening tonight is going to be coming along to Synth East.
Yes.
If they don't,
so. Let's hope so. Tickets are on sale. There's room for more people, and there's also room for manufacturers. If you are a manufacturer out there, in fact, of modular or synthesizers, or an enthusiast who has a big collection or something interesting you want to show, then do get in touch. It's very, very affordable to come and rent a table. Or if you've got no money at all, just come and talk to me anyway, and we'll work something out. Anything is possible.
And if you're sorry.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, if you are at all sort of like thinking, you're going to enter a world where it's all over your head, and that because you maybe don't know enough, people are going to go, you haven't got a clue. It's not like that. The community's great.
Yeah.
You'll come along, and everybody will welcome you. If you're a first timer, if I can only say from my own experience, if you're a first timer, come along, because it's a great community.
It is. Yeah, it is. And we're all happy to talk, no matter how awkward and shy we may be, or big stars like myself, we are approachable. I mean, anyone can talk to Steve. He doesn't mind. He'll talk to anybody. But, the rest of us, we don't mind talking to normal people. It's okay. And, and it's fun. And I'll be dragging stuff. I'll have my Deckard's Dream there. You can go and have a play on that. That'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, right.
You have to sign a waiver about electrocution, that kind of thing, but it will be great. It will be a fun day. I can't really wait for it. It's going to be dead exciting. So, and the performances will be sublime and superb and things like that. So yeah, cool. So yeah, that's why actually. Otherwise, I don't want to keep you here all night.
Yeah,
Steve is exhausted.
Got other things to do.
Got to get on with our lives. So thanks ever so much for being on, Steve. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And
pleasure. Thank you very much, and thanks for the year's entertainment as well.
Oh, you're welcome. And have a fantastic Christmas and New Year. I'll probably speak to you in the New Year, I imagine, and we'll get together and do stuff. But otherwise, have a marvelous time.
Marvelous.
So
yeah.
Okay, well, look, I'll kick you off the screen now, and I'll go solo just to finish off. How do I do that? I like this. Yeah, I'll see you later. So there we go. Thank you ever so much for coming along. Thanks for your time this evening, for joining us, for your questions, for your chat. Anything you want to know, do let us know. If you're interested in Synth East, give us a shout, and we can talk about it and work things out. I hope that's been an interesting year for you. I hope the Molten monthlies have been good and interesting and flowing this year. Probably won't be another one now. I'll do something in January and we'll start again from there. So don't forget, you can support me by clicking on likes, by sharing, by all those kinds of normal things, or join us on Patreon. We've got a little crowd of people on there who send me a couple of quid every month, and it's extraordinarily useful. Extraordinarily so that I can keep on making these crazy videos, and I hope to continue into 2023. No plans of stopping just yet. We're gonna crack on through. So thanks for coming down. Do take care. Do have a fantastic Christmas and a great New Year, and I will see you on the other side. I usually say something far more interesting than that. I can't think what it is. Can't think what it is. Oh yeah, go and make some tunes. That's what it is.